Hello and welcome to Strength for Today with Bretton Baptist Church. My name is Marion and I'm a member here at Bretton Baptist Church. I was really touched by something that Ed said as he preached on Sunday. So if you haven't listened to that preacher, it's worth listening to again. And he spoke there about Moses telling his story and the difference that made. And it made me think of my own story and who I tell my story to. At the very beginning of Luke, Luke talks about all the people that have written an account of the gospel, and yet Luke writes another account because his account is worth it. And it just made me think that actually each of our stories is worth telling. So my story for this week has been a really interesting time for me because on the 11th of November in 2015 I had a breakdown. If it wasn't a breakdown, it was certainly a crash. I entered a time of severe depression, which was induced by stress. And the next 9 months were an extremely dark time for me. I don't want to go too much into that. If you would like to know a bit more about that, then contact me and I'll tell you a bit more of my experience. But suffice to say that during that time, I found it really difficult to gather my thoughts together. And the words of a Charlie Hall song often come to my mind. It says, "Your love is like a rock when I'm spinning." And last week it felt like the words of another song, "Come thou fount of every blessing," where it says, "Here I raise my Ebenezer, hither by thy help I come." During that time and since that time, I can honestly say that God has never left me and God has not forsaken me. I've had an awful lot to learn, I've had an awful lot to change. But I just want to share with you some scriptures that have helped me and some of the things that I have learned during that time. So one of the major scriptures that God used at that time was from Hosea 2, chapter 2, verse 14 and 15. "Therefore I am now going to allure her. I will lead her into the desert and speak tenderly to her. There I will give her back her vineyards and will make the valley of Achor a door of hope. There she will sing as in the days of her youth, as in the days she came up out of Egypt." Now, something that I've learnt during that time, and I started really recently, is a book. And well, it doesn't look like much on that side. But what I try to do is, it's like a creative meditation, if you like. So I just get pictures from various sources, something that I'll pick out that I like. Just meditate on a scripture as I am led by the Lord. So I did this with my thinking about these past 5 years, 11th of November 2015 to the 11th of November 2020. And I've put there that I was absolutely out of charge. I was completely wrecked. And I've taken a little time just to think about that scripture. "Therefore, I will allure her. I will lead her into the desert and speak tenderly to her." And what did God speak to me? He told me to come to him and rest. He told me that he's not a hard taskmaster and not to live as if he is. He told me to learn the unforced rhythms of grace. And he's been teaching me what shalom is. one of the things that did speak very clearly to me, and the scripture that was given to me right at the beginning of that time, was from Leviticus 23 verse 22, where it says, "When you reap the harvest of your land, do not reap to the very edges of your field, or gather the gleanings of your harvest. Leave them for the poor and for the alien. I am the Lord your God." And the devotion that went with that scripture was talking about not ploughing to the edges of the field of your life. It was talking about leaving space, about having time, having a margin for other people. Another scripture that he gave to me at that time was Job 36 verse 16, which says, "He is wooing you from the jaws of distress to a spacious place free from restriction, to the comfort of your table laden with choice food." The Hosea scripture goes on to say, "There I will give her back her vineyards, and will make the valley of Achor a door of hope." And another scripture that God has been speaking to me is that you will be like a well-watered garden. In Song of Solomon, chapter 2, he says, "Arise, my darling, my beautiful one, and come with me. See, the winter is past." The Hosea scripture goes on, "There she will sing as in the days of her youth, as in the day that she came out of Egypt." And we read in Psalm 126 verse 5 and 6, "Those who sow in tears will reap with songs of joy. She who goes out weeping, carrying seed to sow, will return with songs of joy, carrying sheaves with her." I just want to very briefly just share 5 things that I can't say that I've learned, but I can say that I'm learning. They're all S's, so nice and easy to remember. So the first one is to slow down. God is not in a rush. The second thing that I've been learning is silence and solitude. The third thing is to still the chaos, both inside and outside, and to listen to the still small voice of God. The fourth thing is to seek the one thing. We're told with the story of Martha and Mary that Martha was concerned and worried about many things, but only one thing was needed. And the fifth thing is to simplify. I'm learning how to do that in many different ways. Practically with the things that we have at home, of decluttering physically, but also decluttering my mind. One of the things that I found really difficult during that time when I was off work was that actually I couldn't, my thoughts couldn't grab hold of anything. It was like they were an ice skating rink, and I just couldn't capture my thoughts. I couldn't capture them unto Christ. I couldn't do anything with them. They just seemed to take over. But with silence and solitude, I'm learning just to have less chaos and less clutter in my mind and in my life. It's an ongoing thing. So I just want to leave with you then this scripture from Matthew 11:28 to 30. And the Message version is a very beautiful version to leave us with. Are you tired and worn out? Burned out on religion? Jesus says, come to me, get away with me, and you'll recover your life. I'll show you how to take a real rest. Walk with me and work with me. Watch how I do it. Learn the unforced rhythms of grace. I won't lay anything heavy or ill-fitting on you. Keep company with me, and you'll learn to live freely and lightly. God bless you today.